Welcome to the Bridging the Generation podcast. I am your host, Malak Arif, and today I have another special treat for y'all. Now, before we even get started, we got to get this engagement up. Please like, subscribe, and share and comment down below. Again, let's get these likes up. We got to get these likes up. It's very important as far as this YouTube algorithm. So I'm going to give y'all a second to go ahead and knock that out now. All right, let's get into it. Coming to the BTG podcast, I have motivational speaker, life coach, consultant, and mother of the late Len and Jay Bias, Dr. Lonise Bias. This woman's story is nothing short of inspirational, nothing short of amazing. I really hope you guys enjoy this one. This one is very special and near and dear to my heart. So with no further ado, let's get into it. To Bridging the Generation podcast. I am your host, Malak Arif, and today I have a very, very, very special guest. Today I have motivational speaker, trainer, consultant, and mother of Len and Jay Bias, Dr. Lonise Bias. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, and thank you for asking and for the opportunity to be on your podcast.
No problem. The pleasure is all mine. And I would like to start off, most guests that come to the platform, I just like to get a mental check of just how everybody is doing around this time. We're in a pandemic, a lot of, crazy things are going on, controversial issues going on in this world. So how have you been maintaining during these tumultuous times?
Well, a lot of the problems and circumstances that we're dealing with today, I had to work through challenges like this 35 years ago when Len died suddenly, and then 42 months later, Jay died. So we had to work through that time that was so difficult for us that by the time 35 years later, by the time we get to where we are now in our society, in the nation, and in the world, it's like a cakewalk to me. Because we had our COVID experience 35 years ago. We know what it's like to wake up, everything is going fine, and you're on top of the world, and all of a sudden everything is snatched from you. So I'm not minimizing what people are experiencing today. I'm talking about myself, and the only way I can explain who I am is by first sharing my faith in God, because if it were not for my faith in God, I would not be here. And I know that's why I'm standing today. So when I look back at the challenges that my family and I have had to deal with over the years, this is just a norm for us. Okay, if something new has come, we're going to get through this. I know that God did not have me to stand on one son's grave and bury another to take me out with COVID. I still have work to do, but I'm not minimizing the situation that we're in. I'm talking about the strength that God has given me to get here to this point today, to even be on your program.
No doubt. I totally understand. And not only do I empathize, but I sympathize with you as well.
Thank you.
So I would like to ask, again, I feel that your story is very intriguing, and I would like to know more about who Dr. Lonise Bias is, because we all know who Len Bias is. We all know who Jay Bias is, but I want to know, how did you become the person that you are? Because your story is so, again, very interesting. So take me back to the beginning. Where are you originally from?
I am a native Washingtonian, born and raised in Washington, D.C., attended elementary, middle, and high school in D.C., took a couple of classes at different business schools, that type of thing. But I'm born and raised here in Washington, D.C., a native Washingtonian.
Okay. So growing up here in the nation's capital, what were some of your interests, and what was it like growing up during your early years here in Washington D.C.?
Well, as a child growing up, we had a normal life. My mom and my dad. My dad worked, my mom took care of us, and we were just an average family making it at that time. But as we look at some of the tension that we're dealing with today in terms of racism, I think back at the times when I was coming up and we were not allowed certain places, even here in DC. And I attended Anacostia High School. And a lot of people from DC do not understand that Anacostia was lily white at one time. And no one lived there but whites. No one lived in Greenway but whites. We had borders that were set up, and we stayed in the confounds of our borders. But I can remember walking down Minnesota Avenue on my way to school and hearing whites say on their front porch, "Look at that nigger. There goes a nigger."
In
You know what I mean?
Southeast,
But no, but I mean, it was the way it was, but
right.
and still,
Mm-hmm.
and still I rise. You see
Right.
what I'm saying? So that
Exactly.
was kind of the climate. And I was a part of the generation that after a couple of years where desegregation started to come in. So the area where we were going, it was predominantly white, and the high school was predominantly white. But eventually, over the years, whites began to leave the area, and other cultures began to move in, more specifically Afro Americans. So I had it, but I didn't have a bad life, because back in that time, we were taught to know our place
Mm.
as
Yeah.
a people. You
Yeah.
understand what
I
I'm
thought,
saying?
yeah, I
And
heard.
we knew that, and even though those that came before us, our grandparents and our great grandparents, had difficulty in a lot of the challenges they went through, it was passed on to
Mm.
us to know your place. But from their prayers, there was an evolution to where we are today.
No
And
doubt.
when I look at the challenges we're looking at today,
Mm.
racially, and how we have evolved as a people, my only regret is that there is not enough information about where we came from. So while we are climbing to higher heights, we're grateful for those that came before us to help us. So I was in DC schools, and got married, and had a beautiful family, and tragedy came. That's the short story. And here I am today. The
Okay.
thing that I thought would kill me actually gave me life. I had no idea of what waits for me, and that's where we are in life today.
Right.
The entire world doesn't know what's going to happen
Mhm.
tomorrow, where there was a time when we just took for granted, oh well, I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to go and do, but you don't know from one day to the next, and we're
Exactly.
all kind of looking over our shoulders to make sure we're safe, to make sure we're protecting ourselves,
Right.
and are cognizant of the importance of looking out for our families as well, you know. So I brought you up to date pretty much from just a short
Right.
glimpse of where I came from. But to get to the bias story, I tell it in 4 parts.
So let's
And
start. Let's start. I know we know how many kids do you have because we know Lenny, we know Jay,
yes,
but
I have two remaining children,
and
Eric and Michelle.
okay, now are they older than Lenny and Jay? Where do they fall in?
No, they're younger. Michelle is
Younger.
my only daughter. She was next to Len.
Okay,
Okay.
so Lenny is the oldest.
Is the oldest, then
Okay.
it's Michelle, then it was Jay,
Okay.
and then it was Eric, my youngest son.
Okay.
Yeah, my
So
youngest son, Eric.
let's fast forward a little bit. So here we are. Len Bias was born in 1963, I believe.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So tell me about, you know, you're having your first child and what was that like? You know, what was the aspirations? Because, you know, growing, we're talking about the early 1960s and this is
Yeah.
still the civil rights era. So what was that like having your first child and what was the aspirations, not only for yourself, but, you know, at your first kid?
Well, having my first child, at that time that I had Len, I was not married. I
Okay.
was not married. I was a teen mother. But what happened was the man that was Len's father, I've been married to for over 55 years. You see what I'm saying? So we're
Okay.
still married. It's not
Okay.
like I was a single mom or
Right.
anything like that.
Exactly.
And as I grew through that with Len, coming on, moving forward, growing, and then having my other children, I moved on to Maryland, where we bought our first home and we began to raise our family.
So where did you what part of PG County? 'Cause I know you guys are from PG County, but where did Lenny and where did you guys make a home as far as in PG County? Because I know you guys are from PG County, but I'm just trying to figure out because
Yeah,
I hear
we
different. I hear Landover, I hear Hyattsville, I hear
yeah. Well,
College
see, the
Park.
names of the cities changed. Len went to school in College Park.
Hmm.
When we moved out there, it was Landover, Maryland, but then they changed the zip code to Hyattsville,
Okay.
Maryland. So it's all the same place. You know, Hyattsville is a huge place, but when we moved out there, it was Landover, Maryland.
Okay, okay. So talk about Lenny a little bit. What was Lenny? Because here in the Washington D.C. area, this is why this interview is so important to me. He is not only, you know, one of the greatest athletes to ever come out of this area, but he's become a cultural icon. So
Yes.
so
I
so
don't know how it happened. I really don't. I don't.
so take me back to, you know, what was Lenny like? I talked to a lot of people who went to school with him and played against
Mm-hmm.
him, but I
Mm-hmm.
want to know what was Lenny like as a kid.
He was my oldest son, and his his siblings adored him. We have always been a very, very close family.
Hmm.
And his siblings adored him, and they were average children, just average, you know. He we didn't know that whether he would enjoy sports or not. He grew into that playing at the local community center. And playing at the local community center, he would play football, intramural sports, and
Okay.
we have we have pictures of he and Jay one Christmas with their little football uniforms on, and they said they looked at him and said, "Look at us with those suicide helmets on," you know. And I have a picture of both of them standing there, you know, and we laugh about that. But he got interested in playing football, and then uh, we didn't really know whether he was whether it was any interest in sports, and so the feeder school, the elementary school he attended, they had a feeder school for the middle school and a feeder school for the high school. Okay. So when he was done with elementary school, he attended Greenbelt Middle School, and he acquired an interest of basketball because he took all of a sudden, he just kind of shot up. Yeah, he was here, and then all of a sudden you look, he was looking you right in your face. And back at that time, they had intramural basketball between the schools, the middle schools and all. And he was approached to play basketball, to be on the team. And I can't remember who the coach was then. And I remember in wood shop, he bought home one time, they had, when he was in the 8th grade, they had begun to call him the human eraser. Because he would block the shots. This is when he was in middle school. And he made a plaque in wood shop with human eraser on it. And I was going through some materials the other day and came across a I guess you call it macrame. Yes. Where he had used his arm and hand and made a little a statue of him holding the ball, with his arms, and had it all painted and all. Right. I came across that yesterday. But he transitioned from elementary school to middle school. And then because the middle school is the feeder school for the high school, and the coach of the middle school spoke to the coach at the high school saying that they may have an interest in this young man, this student athlete that will be attending their school the next year. Now, and it kind of took off from there.
Okay, so when we know, to my knowledge, Len, he went to Northwestern High School. So, I have a lot of friends that went to Northwestern High School. Great, great friends that went to Northwestern High School. So, what was he like as far as like a student? Because a lot of us know about his basketball prowess, but when did he develop this ability? When did he become serious about basketball? Because you just mentioned that he eventually he initially played football, and then he had a growth spurt. So when did he start to take basketball seriously?
When he left middle school. Okay. When he left middle school and he was a freshman in high school, I think, what is the other team under the regular team?
The JV team.
The JV team, varsity. Right. Okay. And they started him on JV, but his skill set was such that by the time he was in the 10th grade, they put him on the varsity. Wow. And he began to develop skills and managing playing ball at another level.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, for real. But his father was is a type of athlete when he was younger and loved sports.
I wanted to know that. That's what I wanted to get to. I wanted to know, like, who worked with him, because he had a very rare and unique talent, like a once in a life. Like, people we still talk about his basketball ability and his basketball IQ to this day. So where did he develop that?
It had to come, well, I can say this. I think it came from both of our bloodlines, because my dad, when he was younger, they were the Negro the Negro baseball team
Okay.
would come, and
The Homestead.
scouts would come to see, to see them play. And my father was,
Whoa. You mean the Homestead Grays that used to play at the Griffith Stadium?
yeah, but my father, they would be scouted, but they were never picked up. So, but
Okay.
my point is, my dad had athletic
Athletic ability.
abilities
No doubt.
too.
No doubt.
And then my husband's father is a tall man, was a tall man, a big man. And then my husband had athletic abilities too. So
Okay.
the bloodline, it's just athletics, in terms of his skill set and the discipline that he gets from his father.
No
It
doubt.
was when I say discipline, I mean taking care of his body. His father still takes good care of
Right.
himself.
Yeah.
And he would the discipline that Len got, I am a firm believer it was passed down in the bloodline from his dad and
Okay.
my father as well, but more his dad, because his father is still looks well and takes care of himself.
Okay. So I want to switch gears for a second because again,
Okay.
you have a second son, Jay Bias. So around this time, I believe it is a 6 year difference between the two, if I'm not correct. 6, 7 years.
Let's see.
I believe
Mm.
Lenny's born in '63 and
Jay is 7 years.
okay, seven.
It's a
Okay, so 7 years.
difference.
So what was the relationship like between Lenny and Jay as they were younger? Because that's a huge age difference. I sometimes, and I think a lot of us forget the age difference between the two. So what was their relationship like growing up?
Well, Len was the big brother. He was the big brother. And I was speaking with a relative recently about when they would take their big wheels out and go out and ride up and down the hills and stuff. And they had a great relationship as a brother. But Jay looked up to Len as his older brother. And so you can imagine what it was like when Len actually started playing ball at college and in high school, and how
Okay.
he admired his brother and how devastating it was for him when his brother passed. But
Okay.
I remember they used to, I had an old recorder, and they would be down in the basement marking Howard Cosell. They were acting like they were sports announcers, and one would be acting like Muhammad Ali, and the other would be acting like Howard Cosell. And I have fond memories of that. But they were very close. I can remember them just being children. There, one thing that I have learned is that there are no perfect moms, no perfect dads, no perfect families anywhere. The Joneses may look like they have it all together down the street, but when you get down there, they're jacked up too.
No doubt. Exactly.
There are no perfect families, and so many parents and people are trying to find this perfect place that does not exist
Exactly.
outside. Outside, it exists within us, taking the best, managing the best that we can with what we have.
Okay, so here you are. You're a mother of two at this time, I believe, when they are in high school, or a mother of three.
No. When they are in high school, I'm a mother of 4.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I forgot about I apologize. So here you are. You're a mother of 4 children,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them is having an outstanding basketball career at Northwestern High School.
Mm-hmm.
So what were your aspirations as a young Black woman, a young Black mother with 4 children? What was your aspiration for the kids, and how far did you really think that Lenny would go as far as basketball?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, my husband sat down and explained to me. The only thing that I knew was it was just an activity that Len was involved in, and that was playing basketball. I wasn't kind of like the AAU vibe today where
Yeah,
you're right on top of it and win the next that wasn't it, even though there were parents who understood the possibilities of their child having athletic abilities. So when Len was in high school, my husband explained to me, he said, do you know that it's a possibility that because of the way he plays, he may be recruited by colleges? And I was like, what, really? And he said, yes. He said, do you remember Albert King? You remember? You see Albert King playing ball for Maryland? I
yes,
said,
University of Maryland.
yeah. He said, well, that's the opportunity that could come for him. And I was like, wow, I had no idea until
Now, how
he
many
explained that to me.
now how many games did you go to see?
Oh, I went
Lenny?
to all of them. Once I
Okay.
understood, I didn't miss a game. Our only problem was with Jay entering middle school and having an interest in sports. So we were running from game to game,
Yeah,
game
I
to
know that.
game, and it was a season,
Mm,
and sometimes you have to we have to be reflective of some of the opportunities that we have as parents,
no
and
doubt.
don't begrudge it because it's for a season and you'll never go back again.
Mm,
You'll never go back again. So those times that we had to run back and forth, get off from work, which way do we go? Well, you go to this one, I go to that one, or we'll do catch his Tuesday game, catch his Friday
right.
game. And we did it. We
Okay.
did it. And it was a season, and I think from say high school, yeah, it was 7 years of running like that, from 4 years in Northwestern and then 4 years in college. It was 8 years of doing that,
Whew.
and the season comes to pass. It doesn't come to stay, and as long as so many people do not want summer to leave. Summer is changing anyhow. The
Yeah,
next
yeah.
season is coming. So when I am reflective of the memories that I have of the times that we endured and did what we had to do, and then even after Len's death and Jay still wanted to pursue basketball, he was up at Cumberland, Allegheny Community College in Cumberland. And
Mhm.
that was a long ride. And we would pile up in the car and go up there twice a week to support him from where we lived. So
Okay.
it was a season that we truly enjoyed. And as you get through life and you move on, even after tragedy, and you still can pull up those great memories.
Memories, right? No doubt.
I tell parents all of the time, I tell people, this is not the time not to have time.
Yeah.
Take advantage of these times. And good stress is always when you're helping your family to move forward, you're helping your kids with their homework, you're running to games. I mean, all of this is good stress because we expect a good outcome.
No doubt. So let's move forward. So Glenn had a phenomenal career at Northwestern High School. What led him to choosing the University of Maryland, and what was like that recruiting process like for you and his father and
It was really overwhelming. It really was.
because he
It
won
was
pretty much every award. When I'm looking at the I'm looking at his statistics right in my face, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you name it, he won
Yeah.
it.
He was. I
He won it.
mean, it was really overwhelming because of the interest throughout the country.
The
I
country.
mean, letters were coming every day. Every day there were stacks of letters of inquiry in terms of recruiting him. But I think he wanted to stay close to home. He thought about Maryland and he thought about North Carolina State. And
Okay.
one of the most
Jim
interesting,
Valvano.
oh my goodness, let me tell you.
So did you get it to Jim Valvano?
It
Did he
just
make a trip to the
let
house?
me tell you that. Let
Let's
me
go.
tell you
Let's go.
that was that was one of the most exciting yet exhausting home visits.
Talk about
And he came, and I mean, he worked this show. He worked this show. He was a salesman selling North Carolina State, but all in all, I think Thurl Bailey attended North Carolina State. I think he did, and
another
uh,
native Washingtonian.
yes, I know Thurl just came to my mind just thinking about Jim Valvano, but that was a very interesting visit. And I was talking to someone and they said, did he take his coat off? You know, because he's like he's getting to work.
Yeah.
But that process was very overwhelming. And finally it boiled down to, from my recollection, from between North Carolina State and the University of Maryland. And then he was thinking about being close to home at that time,
Okay.
being close to home. And he, we made the choice, the University of Maryland.
So he
It's
commits. He commits, I believe, in 1981.
no. Yes.
1981. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
That's the year I was
Mm-hmm.
born.
Mm-hmm. Really? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, you weren't even. Oh my goodness, you
Yeah.
were just babies. It's. If I could just put this in, it's just so interesting to me, and so godlike that I am still speaking and speak to people who were not even born
That's what I mean. Like he is a
when
cultural icon. Like
and
growing up
and
here, his name is the legend is bigger than him. It's
I'm telling you,
I can remember being a young kid. Now I don't remember watching Len Bias in college, obviously, because
sure,
I
you
was a
were a
kid.
baby.
I was a
Mm-hmm.
baby. But Jay, I remember when he passed. I was
Mm-hmm.
10 years old when he passed. So what I'm trying to say is even as a young kid, you could not escape hearing about Len Bias. You did not even have to know about basketball or be a basketball fan to know about Len Bias. But I remember just hearing his name from the old. So talk about, did you ever foresee him going to the next level as far as the NBA, because he had an outstanding college career, again, all American,
Well, there again, my husband explained to me about the MBA.
okay.
And he had to explain to me about high school going to college. And then he says, it's a possibility that Len could be drafted in the NBA. So that was another level.
Whoa.
And we were very, very, very excited about the possibility, and I couldn't believe it because Jay was playing ball and he was doing well. And here is Len, as I said before, being a teen mother and seeing this come about. I was like, wow, wow. And is it me? Is it real? Can it really happen? And that
Okay.
was the thought that I kept in the back of my mind all of the time. Will it really happen?
Wow.
Really? But we were so excited. We loved the games. We loved hanging around after the games, the home games, and we did some away games, but we have to keep in mind that we had three other
Three other
children
children.
at home.
Exactly.
You know, so it was a joyous time. It was a joyous time. It was. And when they went down to the Dean Dome, and
I know where you about to get to. I didn't watch that game in real time, but over the years, one of the best college basketball games ever.
And do you know there are people in North Carolina that still say, I still do not like the way Len came. We're sorry for your loss, and you know, we loved him and this, that, and the other, but it was a shame the way he came down one-handedly in our brand new facility.
Brand new Dean Dome.
Brand new Dean Dome. And beat North Carolina.
He always had great games against Michael Jordan, and he always had great games against North Carolina and the ACC.
Yes.
He dominated. So, you know, if you can look back, like how would you, if you could talk to Lenny today and have a conversation with him, how would you think he would have described his college experience?
That it was hard. It was not easy. And for him to keep the discipline in moving forward and trying to manage his new norm in college and still excel and still be the gentleman, still having common courtesy and his head not getting big. One of the things that I get over and over again are people talking about his humility and how gentle and how kind he was. And I'm trying to think, just the other day, oh, I know, I was during a Zoom meeting, a conference, and someone came in the chat room and said they remembered how they were new on campus and how Len had helped them, Somebody didn't have money to get home or lunch or something, and how he had helped them. So that was pretty much the norm, his personality. And my mother used to teach us when my siblings and I were being raised, that manners don't cost you anything. Being polite does not cost you anything. So for my kids, I required them to be courteous, you know what I mean, and respect people and show respect. So it was something that was inbred in our home. And he was a very respectful young man.
All right. So again, you know, we all know that he ended up becoming All-American at the University of Maryland. Even today, arguably the greatest basketball player that came out of Northwestern High School and the University of Maryland. And he gets drafted as the number 2 overall pick to the Boston Celtics. So let's stop right there.
Okay.
Because you mentioned you didn't understand, like you had to be explained as far as the high school to college and college to the NBA. Now he has officially been drafted by Red Auerbach and the Boston Celtics. So what was that feeling like?
It was for me. Now I'm talking about for me as his mother. I was still questioning, would it really happen?
I read about that. I read about that. Explain. Talk a little bit about that, because this is very interesting. And I hate to interject, but I read that during the time that he was, you know, dominating, he was this great ball player, that you still had doubts and you did not truly see him reaching his full potential. Well, so talk about that a little bit. And I'm paraphrasing, you know.
Right, I understand. I had had a dream, that there would be death in my family. I didn't know who it was. And this dream haunted me. You know, women are born with the intuitive nature, you know, and
When was
so
this? When was this dream?
this is while Len was playing. It was 18 months before he died. So it was in 1985. 1985. I had a dream that there was going to be death in my family, and this dream was so it was surreal. I mean, it it would not leave me alone. It would not leave me alone, and I didn't know who it was, but it was like I could never get over in the part where you would be so joyous and so happy because on your shoulder is don't forget the dream, you know. And I have told people many times, I've shared that my faith has gotten me to where I am today. And even though I am a woman of faith, it was something that was just so real about it. I just didn't know who was going to die. And I was hoping it would go away, but it never left. It stayed with me for 18 months. I would be crying and weeping and just knowing something was coming, but I didn't know what it was.
So you know, so June, and I'm gonna take my time with this one because this I'm pretty sure this is a story. This is a very tragic story, and I know you have talked about it a lot, but me talking to the person who actually went through this, I want to take my time with this and show empathy. June 18th, 1986. Can you walk me through that day? What was that day like leading up to Len's tragedy?
June 18th?
Yeah.
Okay. So we knew that the draft was June the 18th, and I can remember Len had told us to go to a restaurant, a sports bar, to watch it. And we had gotten the name mixed up, and we didn't find it. So we ended up back home watching the draft on TV, and we were so excited, and we talked to him on the phone afterwards, and his dad went with him. He and his dad went together, and they said they would be on a plane coming back home that evening, and I had a meeting. And so I wasn't there when he came home. I was at a meeting, and when I came back home, my children were saying, "Mom, you missed." We called him. His nickname was Frosty. "Mom, you missed Frosty. He's not here. He said he'll be back." And I said, "Okay." So I talked to him on the phone when I got back home, and I never saw him again. I never laid eyes on him when he returned from the draft.
What was that conversation like on the phone? What was the conversation?
Well, you know, we were just saying good things. You know, you
how
made
excited,
it, you
how
did it.
excited, you know, what was that? How excited was he, you know, getting drafted? Because I know we all knew that he was going to get drafted. I talked to my uncles and everybody around that time. Everybody knew that he was going to be like the next.
Well, the wild thing was after the draft, my husband said that when they came out of the garden, the crowd of people that were cheering and screaming when they saw Len. There are people today, and there were people then that shared with us that they were not Boston Celtics fans, but they were going to become Celtic fans because Len was going there, that he would be playing for them. So he was so excited, but yet calm. and we said we would see him. He said, I'll be home tomorrow. I mean, I'll see you tomorrow. That was our conversation. I never laid eyes on him. He said, I'll be to the house tomorrow.
Okay. So they say June 18th, 1986, Len tragically passes from, they say, cardiorespiratory arrest.
Yeah.
And a lot, I've done a lot of research through the years, like prior to even interviewing you. Just being, I'm a University of Maryland basketball fan. So I've known about this story since I was a young kid. And I hear so many different stories. So when when the news hit the headlines as far as how he passed away, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you this. The detective came to my home and he sat on my sofa and he said, I just wanted to tell you that Len died of a drug-related death. And I said, what? I turned to him in shock. And then, as I said before, I'm a spiritual person. And I said, God, what is happening? And it was like, don't listen to him. What he's telling you are facts. Don't listen to him. But it wasn't, don't believe what he said. My faith, according to my spiritual walk, I was hearing, you're going to have to look at God to make it. You can't make it on your own with what he's telling you. So the faith that I had grew even more because I wasn't in denial of how he said he died. It was that I could not handle it just going in and grabbing it. I had my help from God that has sustained me and given me strength to this day.
So you say, prior to that, you already had a deep root foundation as far as your spirituality.
Oh yes. You can't go.
But when after he passed, because it's just amazing to see you here today and to talk with the confidence of and strength, and that's why I'm so thrilled to have you on this platform, and it's amazing. Yeah, this is amazing. So tell me, like, how were you able to just be able to manage day to day after reaching the mountaintop, going so high to having to go so low, just like that?
As I said before, I told you the little voice that I was hearing all of the time, reminding me about the dream. And if I can be very candid, the pressure that I was feeling and all that I was going through for those 18 months, knowing it was death, when I sat outside in my backyard, I had a minute to myself sitting at the picnic table. It was almost like after Len's death, it was a release. I felt the pressure leave. If that makes sense to you, it happened. This is it.
There's nothing you can do about it.
It's nothing you can do about it. So I remember sitting there and just saying, God, what happened to my life? What happened to my life? And I heard so clearly, Lonise, the best is yet to come. How can the best be yet to come when I'm standing here with dead leaves in my hands? My precious baby is gone. And then it all wrapped up in controversy about how he died. And I
talk about that a little bit, because it seems to me through my research, it seems to me as if they sensationalized that whole story with the University of Maryland. So give me your thoughts on it.
Well, my thoughts are this. The only people that know how Len Bias died are the men that were in the room with him. They know how Len Bias died. Never in over 35 years have I owned or believed that my son took his own life. I never believed that. And that's not in denial, because if he had a problem, as I have told people over the years, the only thing we would have done is what everybody else does. And I'm making this point, and will probably be judged by, but I really don't care. You know, I have grown and learned enough in 35 years to be able to stand by myself. And I understand, as you said, the sensationalizing. I don't think it was sensationalizing of Len's death. This was a tragedy, a tragedy in the sports world. Anytime I receive letters from then President Ronald Reagan and his wife, the Bush family, Tip O'Neill, I mean, congressmen, entertainers, you name it, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and Michael Jordan were the first ones to send flowers to the house. I mean, this was something major.
Yeah.
It was major. So I am not minimizing that. What happened, we're talking about a man that people are still talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to you that it was never proven to me that he took his own life. But out of it came a mission to help others. And that's what I've been doing for 35 years.
Okay.
There's someone out there now pushing books or whatever, but you can go back and check. There may be 2 or 3 people the Bias family have given their word to, or given them the go-ahead, because I'm not giving the go-ahead on Len Bias took a rope and hung himself. Right. I don't believe it. Now, what other people think, I don't care.
You don't care.
Exactly. I don't care.
Totally. So look, I want to fast forward. I want to go to current and talk a little bit about what you're doing now, but I can't move past what I remember. And what I remember was Jay Bias. I remember his death.
Beautiful Jay.
Yeah. I remember Jay Bias passing away. I was in 5th grade.
Oh my God.
And I remember just reading the Washington Post, and they were talking about PG County. I mean, he was at PG Plaza Mall, which I used to frequent all growing up here in DC. Going to PG Plaza Mall was just like going to Disney, whereas a young poor kid growing up here in DC. So I remember that story vividly, and I wrote a book report on it in 1991 around my birthday. Yeah, I still have that. I wrote a book report on that because I believe he died on December the 5th, 1990.
December the 4th, 1990.
December the 4th, 1990. And my book, and I did a book report on his death in 1991, that January. So talk to me a little bit about Jay. From what I know, and from people that I've talked to, such as, guys like Henry Hall, who played against him.
Yeah, I know
Henry Hall, Kurt Smith. These guys say that Jay was the real deal as well.
Yeah, he was.
So talk a little bit about what was Jay like,
Oh yeah. He was, as I said before, he admired his brother so, and to have both of these tall men over 6 feet walking through the house and seeing them growing, it was just crazy. But Jay played ball and he did well. He did very well. But the death of his brother took the life out of him. He tried and tried and tried to press on, but it was very, 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 very difficult. Very difficult. And if you see grown men, I meet grown men in the street today, or I can be on travel, and they will sit there with tears in their eyes and just talk about Len, the memories that they have. So how do you think his own brother felt? Oh my God, the pain that he was in. And just 42 months after Len's death and dealing with Jay's death, it was incredible. I know I was so mad with God when Jay died. when Jay died. I just knew that when I had received the call, come to the hospital, Jay had been shot. I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll get through this. But when I got there and my daughter said, Ma, I said, how is Jay doing in the waiting room where she and my husband was? She said, Jay is gone. I said, what? You got to be crazy. She said, Mom, Jay is gone. I went in that waiting room and I trashed it. I tore it up, the room where, they put the families to the side. And I can just remember, just crying and weeping, and the nurse coming out saying, oh, we have him ready for you to look at. And I could have fought her. I'm not looking over another child. No, I'm not. Get out of my face. Leave me alone. It was just unbelievable. And that's why I say, with the original question at the opening of our interview here, I said that we had our COVID. We had it. We have been through hell and back. And then standing on one son's grave, burying another. And people think all hope is gone. Listen, I'm here to tell you that there is hope. The best is still yet to come.
So let's move forward. So again, Jay tragically passes in December the 4th, 1990, a very dark day. I remember that again very vividly. And it was senseless. It was a senseless death. And
but this is what I was so excited about. And this is to anyone who, as I said before, I'm a woman of faith. I believe in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And this was the saving grace. That day, a miracle happened that day that Jay was murdered. Because Jay's boss was in the car. They all worked for a local bank, and one of the other employees, they were on their lunch break. And when the shots were fired in the vehicle out of a semi-automatic weapon, the other two people were not touched. 2 bullets struck Jay in his back and killed him. Now, the gentleman who was Jay's boss at that time came to our house that night. Oh my God. And he said, I wanted to come and tell you that as we were rushing Jay to the hospital. And he said, you're going to make it, Jay, you're going to make it. And Jay said, no, I'm not going to make it. But tell my mother, my father, my sister, and my brother that I love them. And then he repeated the Lord's Prayer in transition. That lifted a weight up off of me. Because when we look at death today, people say, I die, whatever. My faith is that I believe in eternal life, life after death. I believe in that. And I know that I will see both of my sons again.
Amen. Amen. So let's talk about, you today you are internationally known. I've watched countless videos of you speaking engagements. When did you decide, like, this is the avenue that I want to take, as far as, what led to you deciding this is the avenue that I want to take as far as delivering this message?
I was kicked out of my comfortable position. I was sitting doing life.
Because you're a married woman,
with my kids, minding my business, and got kicked out of my comfortable position. And what happened was, there is at Len's memorial service, at Cole Field House, there were TV cameras from all over the country. Every network was represented at that event. And the mothers of the other players presented me with roses, with flowers. And I didn't know then I was giving my first presentation. when I received the flowers. And so people were amazed at my strength. But remember, I had cried out for 18 months. So when Len died, people saw a strength in me that why isn't she falling to pieces? Because I actually received letters from people that told me I was a fake, that I was
No
a fake.
way.
Oh, come on, that's nothing.
Wow.
That little thing, you all don't know what the Bias family has been through.
Mm.
And people told me that I was a fake because I had cried for 18 months. I have my faith that I believe in, that God is with me, and he gave me strength to stand at that time. So it was so unbelievable. There is this, the Christian Broadcasting Network, 700 Club.
Mhm.
Pat
Pat
Robinson
Robinson.
invited me on to to talk to me about my strength. How was I standing through all of this? And the only thing I knew was God, 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 God. And from that, here I am today.
No
I
doubt.
never did anything else. It evolved from me speaking. I knew Nancy Reagan had her Just Say No program. And she had her Just Say No program to drugs. And then I began to get invitations to speak about drugs because my son had a drug related death. And then after I would finish speaking to the students, the principal or the administrators would come to me and ask me after I finished speaking if I would talk to the students. And the students had questions that had nothing to do with drugs. So that showed me that I had to
Mm.
broaden my presentation to deal with the
Mm.
issues that they were confronted with in life.
Now here we are in 2021, and during the time of Lenny's death, during the time of Jay's death, we had a crack epidemic. Now today we have the what's called the I believe like the opioid epidemic.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you think today's drug culture is worse than it was back in 30 years ago,
Um,
from your experience?
there is a progression of everything in the earth. There is a progression. Nothing
Mm.
stays where it was. So we definitely have a progression. But our problem, I think, here in the United States of America, in so many cases, not only drugs, but we do not take prevention seriously.
Talk about that. Like theoretically, what would you advise, or what can you see? What would best method you would think as far as prevention?
Well, it starts with strong support systems.
Mhm.
And when I say strong support systems, it you have to have people that are on one accord to accomplish this task and
Mm.
not one of the problems that we had years ago when I was speaking, there was money out there for, to bring speakers in and that sort of thing, but they would only do it once a year. You know what I mean? So once a year or maybe twice a year, this is our thing for drugs. And we did our drug program, we're good. But today, in order for prevention to be advantageous, we have to work
Mm.
like crazy trying to save this nation's greatest natural resource, our children. Our children are reachable, teachable, lovable, and savable.
Mm.
What worked in 1959, 1999, 2019 won't work in 2021. So we have to change our approach in adapting to their needs. So when we're talking about opioids and the drug culture that children are involved in today, we need prevention and not, what do we call this? What's this word I want to use? Glorifying drug use. You know what I mean? It's like saying, nobody should drink alcohol. Well, alcohol is not the problem. You know what I mean? There are plenty of people that have cocktails and enjoy themselves, and
Exactly.
they're not driving drunk and this, that, and the other. So many laws have been changed, but we have to be cognizant of being responsible as we indulge in substances.
Exactly.
And telling young people you can have getting high, glorifying getting high, and these types of things. We need programs and people in place telling children that there is a time and a place for everything. And right now, you have to indulge in being your best you, teaching young people how to value, to love, and appreciate themselves. And then when we have parents that of the children, the parents have to be supported in showing a new way, a more excellent way in working with the children today, because what worked years ago won't work today, and good advice with poor example is very confusing.
Exactly.
So we have to step our game up for little babies that are 2, 3 years old, 4 years old. We have to prepare a better world for them, downloading them with information about taking good care of themselves and about respecting those in their realm of influence, and letting them know we do not live in a perfect world. Everybody is not going to like you. Everybody is not going to love you, but you've got to get up every day valuing yourself and your life, and the best is yet to come.
No
Take
doubt.
good care of yourself.
Okay, now as we wrap, very eloquently put. Thank you, Miss Bias, Dr. Bias. As we wrap this interview up, I will. What drives you as far as continuing to go out here and to preach this gospel as far as this drug prevention and things of that nature? You know, do you feel that? I'll let you answer that. But what drives you? What, you know, because you have a lot of zeal. You have so much zeal.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone
I
who
love
has
my
who
work.
has so
I'm
much
very
tragedy.
passionate. I love my work and I'm very passionate. And I shared with someone last week, I want the best for everybody. I want the best for you, for your family, for your listeners. I want the best. Life is a bowl with lemon and honey in it. Sometimes it's sweet and sometimes it's bitter, but I believe. I believe in the human spirit. I believe in men and women. And when we can have information given to us to comfort and inspire and to enlighten us, not grabbing a hold of all of the darkness and owning it, but knowing there are so many levels below where we are and there's so many levels above where we are. And that's where I am. I still believe in mankind. I still believe the best is yet to come. I believe, as I said before, there are no perfect families, no perfect moms, dads, churches, businesses, you name it. None of us are perfect. All of us are becoming and are work in progress. So I can't throw in the towel. When I look at my life and God has me clothed in my right mind, there's hope for everyone.
I know that's right. Well, here we have it. Dr. Lonise Bias, thank you so much for your time here at with Bridging the Generation podcast. It's been a pleasure. I mean, words cannot explain how much this means to not just to me, but for the culture it as a whole. I mean,
I
this has
love
been
my
it's been an
young
honor.
people. I love the millennials. I believe in all of you. I
Thank you.
love you. I love the great work that you're doing.
Thank you
But
so
we've
much.
got to get balance. And I appreciate your program. And once again, thank you for the opportunity, and shalom. Peace and blessings be upon you and your family and the listeners.
No
The
doubt.
best is yet to come.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Bias.
you.
You have a good
Bye
night.
bye.
Take
Good
care.
night. Now, how do you sign off from here?